Hi everyone, I want to give you a course of lectures on general physics. This is our first lecture, and it will be dedicated to a very important thing you have to know about science, about how you have to learn it, to be able to understand it better. So now let's start our discussion. The first thing you have to know about science is that it is very important to know what objects you work with, and you have to know the definitions of characteristics that you use to be able to describe these objects or their behavior or processes that happen with them. So it's very important to know the definitions of objects, their characteristics, and the definitions of values and values that you use to be able to describe these things. So this is a very important thing you have to know. The second thing you have to know is that it's very important to know axioms of physics to be able to learn any theories better. Why it's so important? The axioms are the facts we don't have to prove, but we have to just consider that they as a truth. Using axioms, we can prove a lot of theorems of our theory that we study, and because of that, and owing to the definitions and axioms, using both of them, we can build any theories. So because of that, it's quite important. It's very important to understand axioms on a very high level. To explain it, to make it more understandable, I want to show an example from maths. Now let's remember something about the vector algebra, the vector spaces. So let me write now the elements A vector, B element C, and so on that belongs to our V space, the vector space. Where is the vector space? This is a set of vector elements, in other words, yeah? But it's not the whole definition, because we have to say about the rules that these elements have to obey to. So, okay, so we've written something about the vector spaces and the elements. Now let's remember several rules, axioms we have. So the first axiom that I want to remind you is the axiom about the zero element. So in this vector space, there is such an object that is called the zero element. Let me show it in that way. That works in that way. If I find the sum of any vectors and this very vector, I will then get the vector A. So this is a definition of a zero element, and this is the axiom of our linear space, so that there is such an object that exists. The second rule we have to remember is that one. If I find the sum of two vectors A and B, this result would be the same as if I find the sum of vector B and A. In other words, if we change the position of that two objects, the result won't be changed. Well, now let's try to solve a problem, a very classical problem, in fact, that is called to prove that the zero element is only one in our vector spaces. So there are no any other zero elements in a vector space. So we don't have 0, 1 element and 0, 2 elements. We have to prove that there are no such elements in our vector space. To do that, let's suppose that they exist. Let's suppose that. But what will it mean? What will it mean? Well, it will mean the first, that if I use this rule, we'll write that the sum of 0, 1 and 0, 2 is the same as if I write the sum of the second zero vector and the first zero vector. This is the first thing where I can write if these elements work in that way. The second thing I can write is the thing that is connected with this rule. So if I put, for example, 0, 1 element instead of A, and so what will I get then? So if I find the sum of 0, 1 element and 0, 2 element, according to that rule, according to the definition of 0 element, in the result of that sum, I will get 0, 1. Okay, but I can use it in a different way. So I can put 0, 2 element instead of this A, and 0, 1 element instead of that 0 that is written here. So where will I get then? If I put a 0, 2 element instead of A and 0, 1 instead of this 0, I will then get a 0, 2 element according to this rule. Well, what I see from the system of the three equations I've written, we see that in fact 0, 1 element is the same as 0, 2 element. So these two things are the same in fact. And then it means that there is only one 0 element in our vector space. So we've proved this fact. What is an important thing we've used to be able to solve this problem? We used the axioms of our vector space, and we used the definition. So we used that what this 0 element is to be able to solve it. In fact, yeah, you may say that it's very obvious thing that there is only one 0 element, so it's we don't need to, you may say that we don't need to prove it, but in our axiomatic basis, we don't have such a fact that there is only one 0 element, and then it means that we have to prove it. But how can we do it? And if you don't know these facts that I've now written, so then it will be very difficult for you to prove this fact. So because of that, it's quite important to know both definitions and axioms. And in physics, it works the same as in mathematics. And because of that, I showed you this example. Well, this is all for now.